Всем привет, я Хенки, и сегодня мы продолжаем играть в Вампира за Джонатана. Мы пришли в больницу, нас назначили врачом, и сегодня мы начнем тут все обследовать, говорить со всеми больными пациентами. Давайте сначала пробежимся по округе. Вот, стой. Стой.
Good evening, sir. I'm
Так.
Dr. Jonathan Reed. I'm new here.
I've already heard about you,
Milton.
Dr. Reed. I'm Milton Hooks, the ambulance driver for this shithole of a hospital.
That's quite a blunt introduction, Mr. Hooks.
You can call me Milton. I like to speak my mind, Dr. Reed. Perk of the job. Don't judge me, and I won't judge you.
I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about.
Well, I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure a gun can't be used as a surgical instrument.
You have a keen eye. I learned to shoot during the war and have carried one ever since. Old habits die hard.
No need to explain, Dr. Reed. And if you ever need a better gun, remember, I may have something for you.
Так,
How is the
много
situation
всего.
around here?
You want to hear the situation is all right? It's fucking awful. We lack
Это
everything.
я уже поняла.
And it's getting worse every day.
So what do you do exactly in this hospital? Apart from smuggling guns, I mean.
I've been an ambulance driver since... too long, I guess. I bring sick people here night and day. It's a dirty job, but I get it done. Most of the time.
Тут же все уже занято.
Since you're on the front line, how is the sanitary situation in this vicinity?
It's a complete disaster. It's even getting dangerous to enter some streets or buildings. Even the locals attack you.
It sounds like things have been a bit rough recently. What's happened?
Yesterday I got attacked by the patient I was bringing here. I escaped through the hospital's garden, but I lost my wallet when I was running.
You left an infected patient outside the hospital. That's incredibly dangerous.
Go there yourself if you want, but be careful, Doctor. I'd rather not bring your dead body back.
Расследование. Доступно новое расследование. Откройте меню расследования, нажав Tab. Это попозже. Ладно. Расследования, которые вам доверяют горожане, рассортированы по районам. Чтобы приступить к заданию, выберите его, нажав левую кнопку мыши. После этого на карте отобразится область, которую нужно исследовать. Полночь в саду добра и зла. Нужно найти его кошелек.
Are you really smuggling weapons through the hospital?
And why not? I've already been attacked by patients, you know. And by gang members willing to steal my money.
But you're not defending yourself. You're selling guns to civilians.
You keep people alive your own way, Doctor. I offer them another way to protect their health.
Пока рано.
I'd like to see
Что
your
ты там
goods.
продаешь?
Wise choice, Dr. Reed. A reliable gun is what everybody needs these days.
Дробовик Милтона. Большой урон. Он не оглушает. Запчасти, если что, можно купить. Допустим. Можно проследить за пациентами и врачами, если что.
Good evening, nurse. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed, the new surgeon here at the Pembroke.
Dr. Swansea has already told us
Привет.
about you, sir. I'm Nurse Gwyneth Brannigan. Welcome to the Pembroke Hospital.
Did he really? It's a good thing I wasn't hoping to keep a low profile.
All members of staff have already read about your new blood transfusion technique. Dr. Swansea made sure of that.
I see. Well, I'm a little surprised, but I suppose I'll just have to deal with this unexpected notoriety.
You must know, blood transfusions are Dr. Swansea's primary subject of research. He is convinced it is the future.
How are things here?
Not good, to say the least. We're struggling against an invisible enemy, more lethal than any bullet from a gun. It's hard, Doctor.
An invisible enemy? Quite a poetic term for a disease, especially from a nurse.
Sorry, Doctor. These last few weeks have been exhausting. We could all do with a good night's sleep.
Do you think this hospital can survive the epidemic?
We are all volunteers here, and we're trying to hold fast, but how do we beat an invisible killer? Some nurses have already resigned.
Очень не вовремя они решили уволиться.
I'm not familiar with all the staff yet. Perhaps you could help me.
Brilliant professionals, most of them. Dr. Swansea has a gift for recruiting talent.
Most of them. Is there a problem I should know about, nurse?
It would be inappropriate for me to speak ill of a colleague.
Значит, она считает, что тут есть те, кто недостойны тут быть.
Is there anyone that stands out?
Well, I have never met someone as dedicated as Dr. Tippett. He should be a standard for us all here. If only he were younger.
Why should his age be a problem?
I guess it's fair to say he's always pushing himself to the limits. He just doesn't know when to stop and get some rest.
Доктор Коркоран. Вот это имя.
Nurse Brannigan, if you do know something, please tell me. Anything you say will be held in confidence.
No. I may disagree with some conduct, but in the end, everybody is doing their best.
Иногда вы можете заметить, как они смотрят ему через плечо прямо в экран. Это как-то ломает четвертую стену.
Goodbye, nurse. Call me if you need assistance.
Так, еще кто-нибудь тут есть? Давайте зайдем внутрь.
Dr. Swansea is right. This place seems perfect to conduct my research.
Привет.
Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon at the Pembroke Hospital. And who are you?
Your name has no meaning to me.
Тельма.
Mortal. You're nothing but dust blown by the winds of eternity.
I beg your pardon?
What are you begging for, mortal? My clemency? Well, tonight maybe I'm inclined to mercy. You'll never forget the night you met Thelma Howcroft.
You keep calling me mortal. Why is that? And if I'm mortal, what are you?
Well, Dr. Reed, if you must know, I'm a vampire.
And why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I am. It is what I feel within this hollow shell of flesh.
Please, describe to me how you feel. What is it like to be a vampire?
I can hear my body crumble from the inside as my flesh cracks and fades. I sense the last pulse of pustulant blood within my drying veins. I need new blood.
I see. Have you ever heard of Cotard's syndrome, Miss Howcroft?
Never.
It's a mental illness discovered by a French neurologist named Jules Cotard. The affected patients are delusional. They believe that they are putrefying, that they are dead, a ghost or a ghoul, or in your case, a vampire.
Delusional, you say? Oh, sad and petty mortal. You can't even begin to understand the concept of immortality. And you think it is I who am delusional.
А у них нет отдельной больницы для
I'm assuming
как
you
она,
must be a patient here. Am I right,
психиатрической?
Miss Howcroft?
It's only a cover. To hide from my enemies. I can leave whenever I want. As a woman, a spirit, fog, or bat.
Who are these enemies you mentioned? Can you describe them?
I cannot say for sure. But I sense their eyes on me from nearby. I feel them watching me every time I visit the garden near the morgue.
The staff here are not your enemy. They're here to help you, to care for you.
I'm not speaking of the doctors in white. I'm speaking of the men and women who hunt me. For I am a vampire.
I see. Don't worry. These people will not find you here. I'll personally make sure they leave you alone.
Thank you, mortal. But do not interfere with them, for you are no match for those that hunt me.
Ее выслеживают охотники на вампиров.
Who are you really, Miss Howcroft? I mean, apart from being a vampire.
Is that not enough for you, puny mortal? What do you require? Proof of my powers?
I'm curious to know who you were before becoming a vampire.
It was such a long time ago, I don't remember. Centuries of unholy life can have strange effects on one's minds, you see?
Ладно.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities. Thelma Howcroft said she was being watched by vampire hunters. Where are they hiding? I should investigate.
Смятое письмо. Куда ты его положил? Нет. Любовь моя. Наконец-то мне удалось собрать деньги, которые водитель автомашины просит за доставку в больницу. Ни о чем не беспокойся, я обо всем позабочусь, просто выздоравливай. Соседи говорят, что этот мистер Хукс честный жулик. Честный жулик? Он может попросить денег за койку, но зато тогда эта койка будет тебе точно гарантирована. Надо было сразу ему заплатить. Теперь я понимаю, что самое главное – это твое выздоровление. Говорят, что Пембургская больница – хорошее место, несмотря на то, что там работает этот Милтон Хукс. Теперь все в порядке, уверяю тебя. Скоро ты будешь лежать в чистой постели, а я приду тебя навестить. С любовью, Николай. Значит, Милтон берет деньги, которые, по идее, брать не должен. Больница же не частная. Городская, наверное. Закрыто.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed.
Always a pleasure to meet a colleague, sir.
Ракеш.
Especially when he was supposedly dead.
A colleague. Are you a doctor too?
Not anymore, sir. I used to be Dr. Rakesh Chadana. Now, I'm just Mr. Chadana, pawnbroker and humble guardian of this morgue.
What do you mean, you used to be a doctor? Was your license revoked?
No, sir. It is just that I like to be precise. I run a little pawn shop while taking care of the dead. But I used to be a real doctor.
Please show me
Давайте
what
сразу
you have to
посмотрим,
sell.
что он
Of
там
course.
продает.
It's just trinkets and curios, really. But I'm sure they can be useful.
Загадочный рецепт. Средство от кашля и наркота. Сколько у меня денег? Ну давайте купим.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Such a pleasure to see you again.
Are you afraid or uneasy being surrounded by so many corpses?
Why should I? These bodies are empty vessels. Flesh left to decay. Poof. No soul anymore. All gone.
An interesting point of view. And quite an exotic one, too. Most people fear, or at least have a respect, for dead flesh.
Sir, as a medic during the war, I learned to face my death and the death of others. It's the pain we have to tame, not death itself.
Я с ним согласна, но только не в этой игре, когда мертвецы
How
встают.
did you get this job?
After I left the army, I worked as an undertaker down by the docks. A dangerous place with many an unpleasant business there. Milton Hooks helped me get a job here.
Do you work here alone?
Yes, very easy work, sir. All I have to do is watch a few bodies. The situation was very different when the main morgue was still open.
Why do you have to watch these bodies?
Because these poor fellows have no names. We keep them in case someone comes looking for the missing. Sadly, very rarely happens.
Why close the hospital's main morgue?
It was for sanitary reasons after the beginning of the epidemic. Cadavers had to be moved to the nearest mass grave.
Have we met before?
I don't think so, sir. Why?
When we first talked, you said you were glad to meet me since I was reported dead.
Funny story, sir. Your sister came here a few nights ago. You were missing, and she was looking for your body. She must be very relieved now.
Да, она там просто веселится.
A pawnbroker? I expect you get all types of people here.
Yes, sir. All kind of people. For I sell all kind of goods.
Who comes here to trade with you? It's very unhygienic, even unsafe. Diseases can spread. For the customers, for the hospital.
I'm very cautious, sir. I've been a doctor, remember? And all my clients are good people. In fact, I think I only know good people.
What kind of goods?
With the quarantine, it's not always easy to buy things. So I trade, I exchange. Some people sell, some others buy. I like to help.
Since you're not afraid of dying, do you believe in life after death, Rakesh?
No, I believe we must do all the good we can while alive. For our time is short, and the obstacles are endless.
Do you think you would enjoy immortality as a concept?
I don't think so. Don't mistake me. I love life, and I'd like to live a long life. But everything has to decay, sir. Even goodwill.
И с этим я тоже
Do you
согласна.
really believe goodwill cannot last?
As I said, sir, everything decays. If I was to never die, goodness, I would be bored or worse. And I like to be helpful, sir.
Quite depressing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but the good news is we'll all die before losing our humanity, sir.
So you're ready to die?
No, I am not. I don't fear death, for I won't see it. What troubles me is the pain my death will inflict to those I know.
You're a wise man, Mr. Chidana.
No, Dr. Reed, I am a foolish man. But I like to think otherwise.
Goodbye, Mr. Chidana.
Так, туда я пока не пойду, там, наверное, очень опасно. Вы кто?
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I believe we're going to be colleagues.
Reed, yes, I've been informed about your arrival. I'm Waverly Ackroyd. Welcome aboard, I suppose.
Does my arrival inconvenience you in some way, Dr. Ackroyd?
Let us just say that I don't particularly share Dr. Swans's enthusiasm for hiring you. What we need here are reliable professionals, not overrated dabblers.
Прям в лоб.
Since your tenure in this hospital is longer than mine, perhaps you can tell me more about this place.
Let's just say I'm tired of the carelessness around me. I have always respected the skills of Dr. Swansea, but over time his enthusiasm has become displaced.
Carelessness? Exactly what are you talking about?
We're here to save lives. The people who trust us are not volunteering for experimentation. They're here to be healed.
I don't intend to run any radical experiments, Doctor. Even if I, as any good practitioner should, express an interest in pushing the boundaries of medical research.
Modern medical methods were created through audacity and ego. But there are rules in our line of work, and they're here to protect our patients.
If you have a problem with me, Dr. Ackroyd, please feel free to tell me.
Dr. Swansea has imposed your presence on this hospital without asking anyone's advice. The benefit of his position. But I don't agree with it.
I know we've never met before, but I believe this hospital could use all the help it can get. You will agree with that, I'm sure.
Oh, but I have heard about you, Dr. Reed. Of course, you can't say the same about me, since I have not wasted my time courting the press.
There is no need for such animosity between us. Don't you think the epidemic is already enough to deal with?
That is one point we could agree on. And that is precisely why I want to be sure that you will be of help to this hospital, instead of a burden.
Ну, попробуй.
I don't know what you've heard about me, but I have already proved my value as a practitioner.
I don't question your skills, Dr. Reed, but your motive. Is it money, fame, or are you truly dedicated?
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
I served in the war just like you. But unlike you, I did not use the wounded to play the modern sorcerer.
Be careful what you insinuate, Dr. Ackroyd.
I only want you to admit you used those men to improve your theories.
Я не знаю, я там не была.
This is ridiculous. My blood transfusion technique saved many lives, and you know it.
You see? That is exactly what I hate about people like you. You avoid this kind of accusation instead of facing reality.
It seems you have bad memories of your military service.
I refuse to see this industrial slaughter as scientific progress. War only reveals the worst in men.
We can at least agree on something, Dr. Ackroyd.
Уже 2 раза согласны в чем-то.
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Вампир же, он же не должен отражаться в зеркале, нет? Или здесь они решили это убрать?
Good evening, Doctor. I believe we're going to be working together.
Dr. Reed. Dr. Swansea informed us of your arrival, but I could not dare to believe we'd have such good fortune. Such an honor, sir.
Thank you. And you are?
I am Thoreau Strickland, Dr. Thoreau Strickland. I'm a great admirer of your work, Dr. Reed.
Please, could you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a great admirer of your work concerning blood transfusion, Dr. Reed. I run my own experiments. I'm convinced it's the future.
What made you choose to be a doctor?
I'm not ashamed to admit you and your work have inspired me. I am honored to have the opportunity to work by your side.
It's always a pleasure to share scientific and medical knowledge with someone eager to learn. I'll be glad to help you if I can.
This epidemic may be the century's most terrible disaster, but I'm convinced that we, as doctors, are the only ones able to defeat it.
I based my technique on my mentor's research. He helped me perfect my method. What is yours?
I'd rather not talk about it. For now, it's just theories and first approach. My process is purely experimental and unsuccessful.
As long as you're cautious and methodical, you may remain empty-handed, but you won't fail.
You're not the first one to warn me. but I am convinced knowledge is the main weapon against the ravages of this epidemic.
Мне кажется, он натворит бед.
What can you tell me about the Pembroke?
Well, it has always been an honor to work with Dr. Swansea. But with your arrival, I can't think of a better opportunity to learn about blood transfusion.
You seem quite optimistic. It's a rare and precious attitude in these difficult times.
I'm convinced that this epidemic is a test of endurance and dedication for us men of science.
Questions remain about our capacity to resolve the situation.
True. Last summer, during the first wave of the epidemic, I used to joke with Milton about the extra work. We're not smiling now.
Do you need help with anything in particular?
Well, yes, maybe. I'm waiting for a batch of products I ordered for my personal research, yet my supplier seems to have vanished.
Do you want me to play the errand boy for you?
Oh no, Dr. Reed. But if you went personally to his shop, what with your reputation and all, he wouldn't dare to refuse the products I need.
I see. Well, give me the address, for I may pass by if I have time. What do you think of Dr. Ackroyd's aversion to modern medical methods?
It's a shame he's so narrow-minded. Dr. Swansea taught me that science is about exploring uncharted territory. I'm convinced that's true.
With the influenza and all that's going on, you should put your differences aside, don't you think? Why is it so difficult to work together?
I believe that if Dr. Ackroyd had been the one to discover the transfusion process, he would be the first to recommend its use.
So you believe it's just a question of jealousy and pride?
Dr. Ackroyd is as proud as he is blinded by his obsolete concept of medical science.
Если этих двоих соединить, возможно, получился бы хороший доктор. Золотая серия.
Tell me more about your willingness to experiment with new medical techniques.
Harvey Fiddick is a patient suffering from a severe injury that could cripple him if not treated correctly. I'm convinced your blood transfusion technique could help him.
What is it you really want? To save him, or to prove your point?
Fair question. I want nothing but to save my patient, Dr. Reed. Especially since I know Mr. Fiddick's story.
This personal involvement could also appear to be a lack of impartiality. You must know that a good surgeon must remain neutral.
I agree. But that does not excuse Dr. Ackroyd's behavior. A man who did not even take time to converse with his patient.
Do you think keeping his distance was a mistake?
All I know is that I'm taking care of human beings with desires, hopes, and fears. Not some biological machine comprised of blood, bones, and flesh.
Tell me Mr. Fiddick's story.
Our first diagnosis was compromised because Mr. Fiddick lied to us about the real origin of his injury. He first claimed it was an accident.
But why would he hide such crucial information from us?
Because he is a proud father, ashamed of putting his children at risk because of his own negligence.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Sweet girl.
Неоконченное письмо. Пембургская больница, 2 ноября. Мои милые дети, извините за то, что не писал вам раньше, но мне чертовски больно нацарапать даже пару слов на этой проклятой бумаге. Не бойтесь, как только врачи вылечат папину руку, он сразу выйдет из больницы. А пока, если вам что-то понадобится, пойдите на стройку и скажите мистеру Чедвику, что вы дети Харви Фиддика. Вы Роберта Чедвика, помните? Большого усатого мужчину, который прошлой весной помогал мне чинить двери. Разыщите его и попросите несколько монет. Он вам не откажет. Мне жаль, что я пока не могу работать, но когда я выйду, мы что-нибудь придумаем. Не волнуйтесь, как только папина рука снова станет сильной, все будет хорошо. Как только врачи починят мою руку, я...
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. May I help you?
I don't know if a third opinion is needed. Your colleagues are already arguing about my condition.
I see. Would you mind telling me more about your situation?
I'm Harvey Fiddick. All I want is to get me bloody arm fixed properly.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Fiddick.
I'm just a regular guy waiting to get his arm fixed, so I can return to work and to my family.
I was more curious about what you were doing before being hospitalized.
I'm a carpenter, and a good one too. But that means I need both arms to feed my family, Dr. Reed.
Are you satisfied with your treatment here?
Well, it's clear that I've chosen a bad time to be injured. Forgive my bluntness, but you seem overwhelmed by cases of the flu.
I won't lie to you about it. I'm afraid we are.
Are you sure you don't want to operate yourself, Dr. Reed? I have the feeling you're very capable, and your colleagues seem to think so too.
In other circumstances, you would be right. But for now, I don't think I can take on the responsibility. My apologies. Tell me about the doctors who are arguing about your case.
Strickland and Aykroyd. They both want the best for me, but there's a lot of pride there. Doctors are no different from carpenters, it seems.
What do you mean?
I often had professional arguments with rivals on a building site. Difference is I disagreed about wooden nails, not flesh and bones.
You seem worried about the safety of your family. And it's obviously the reason why your wound troubles you so much.
I cannot give up on my children now. They both need me living.
What about their mother, if I may ask?
She died in 1915 during one of the first Zeppelin raids. We never found her body.
Tell me about your injury, Harvey. Why do you feel so guilty about it?
My wife died because of me. And now I may lose everything because I've been careless enough to hurt myself. What an arsehole.
How could your job be responsible for your wife's death?
I was working a double. She went out to bring me a hot meal and got caught in a German bomb raid.
Он не виноват.
You can't hold yourself responsible for your injury, Mr. Fiddick. Unless you tried to hurt yourself.
Of course I didn't hurt myself. But I can't work until my arm is fixed. My children need to eat, Doctor.
Tell me more about the death of your wife, Harvey.
1915. I was in the army, building workshops for the Royal Flying Corps. Helen was happy I wasn't sent to the front.
What happened?
The Germans sent Zeppelins to bomb the construction site, but they missed their target. My wife was bringing my dinner when the bombs fell.
I'm sorry for your loss. So many died during the bombings. I served in France and witnessed the carnage there.
I would like to say that she didn't suffer. Truth is, I have no idea. I just know that I'm all that me kids have. Poor little bleeders.
How are your children after losing their mother?
They were smaller then. The only good thing about this is my Helen didn't bring them with her that night.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
My sweet girl. Reads me like a book. I never could keep anything from her.
Так, туда пока рано. С этими я уже говорила. Теперь можно туда.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed. Can I help at all?
No,
Really? Why are you here then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And no.
Could you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'm sure you realize a doctor and his patient have to communicate, sir. Would it help if I gave you some paper and a pen?
Not really.
I see. Then maybe it's not just your throat that hurts, Mr. Goswick. Perhaps your sore throat is just the consequence of something more hurtful.
Yes, maybe. But I don't want to talk or even write about it now.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'll let you get some rest, then.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
Good evening, madam. Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick. Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reed? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
Это чему она их учит?
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Им сейчас не до этого.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
То есть сначала у них водитель забрал деньги, потом еще и она.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reed. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
А с ними я
Good
поговорила
evening,
обо
Mr.
всем.
Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
Why did your mother have you hospitalized here? She seems convinced this is a bad hospital.
My mother just wants the best for me. She won't rest while I'm here. She'd go all the way to hell and back to help me.
Pembroke Hospital may look unorthodox, but rest assured you're in good hands here.
It's not me you have to convince, Dr. Reed. It's my mother.
Is your mother bothering you? As your doctor, I can ask her to leave you alone if you would prefer.
That's tempting, Doctor. But you have no idea what my mother is capable of. She would tie herself to my bed if you asked her to leave.
How painful is your...
So painful I'd rather...
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
You always knew the words to calm the children, Helen.
Так, тут очень много людей. Это затянется на 2 часа. Требуются медсестры. Их жизнь зависит от тебя. Обращайтесь в ближайшее представительство Министерства труда или пишите по адресу Лондон, Кингуэйдз, 15. Об использовании чеснока и деревянных кольев. Мои дорогие братья, я должен привлечь ваше внимание к очень важному вопросу. Чеснок как средство защиты от вампиров. Давайте на чистоту. Чеснок никогда не защитит вас от этих существ. Даже самый свежий, ядреный и пахучий чеснок абсолютно бесполезен в качестве средств защиты. Ущерб, нанесенный романом Брэма Стокера, невозможно преувеличить. Да, конечно, славяне кладут в гробы дольки чеснока. Да, разумеется, жители Санторини вешают чеснок на окна. Об этом острове можно написать очень много, и я надеюсь когда-нибудь вернуться туда и еще больше изучить его оккультные традиции. Но чеснок служит не для защиты живых от дьявола. Он напоминает мертвецам о том, что люди знают об их злокозненных намерениях. Это просто символ, не больше и не меньше. Так что, пожалуйста, ради бога, носите чеснок, демонстрируйте чеснок, вешайте чеснок и говорите теням, что вам не страшно. Но если вам нужна защита от сверхъестественных сил, то придется углубиться в забытые тайны оккультных традиций. Потому что, братья мои, правда такова. Чеснок не прогоняет вампиров, однако им вредят любые свежие растения. Тела вампиров словно бы не могут выносить присутствие элементов флоры. Я видел, как разъяренный вульп бежал, получив удар розгой. Да, простой розгой. Я был свидетелем того, как агрессивный Экон упал на землю и молил о пощаде, когда его ударили деревянным колышком. Я не знаю, почему этот метод столь эффективен, и отдал бы левую руку за разгадку этой тайны, однако факт остается фактом. Вампиры обладают повышенной чувствительностью к свежим растениям. Бой с тенями, как и почему. Ашер Тол 3, глава Братства Святого Павла.
Good evening, sir. Can I help you?
Unless you're here to fix my face. No. I don't think you can help me.
I'm Dr. Reed. I've recently taken the position of head surgeon here. War injuries, am I right?
You guessed right, Doctor. German shell took my pretty little mug right off. But they still call me Thomas Elwood.
How is your stay with us, Mr. Elwood?
Oh, it's bliss. I just escaped death in the trenches to be surrounded again by the moans of the dying.
Can I ask you precisely why you're a patient here?
It's the pain, sir. The drugs don't work. It just hurts under the scars, if you get my drift.
Can I do anything for your pain?
Nurses gave me a bunch of pills. No effect. Told you. It's like the flames are under my skin, burning away.
Who is treating you? Is someone in particular looking after your case?
Nobody since the old and tired doctor spoke to me. Started to think I was forgotten about. Wouldn't blame you.
You don't seem worried by that.
My face hurts so much more when I smile or cry. I've learned it's easier not to speak. But be assured I'm smiling inside.
Where were you stationed, sir? Did you serve for long?
I really don't want to talk about all this shit.
No offense. I was pushing too much. I served in France myself. I just wanted to know what happened to you.
You were an officer, weren't you? Then I doubt we fought the same war, sir. No offense.
How close are you to Miss Hallcroft? Are you aware that she thinks she is a vampire?
To wait for her next nibble is the best reason to stay here. Every time she approaches my bed, she treats me like something tasty. A normal person.
Aren't you afraid? She may hurt you if the game goes too far.
She's quite harmless, I can assure you. Her head's broken inside is all. While I'm busted on the outside. But she's still beautiful. Living proof that there's hope for me. And why not? She's only supping a few drops of me blood. And the pain, it's real for once.
She could decide to bite less willing patience.
Then it's another good reason for me to stay here, Doctor.
You do realize she's mentally disturbed. It's called the Cotard syndrome. She truly believes she's a vampire.
In her madness, she never refers to my scars. And frankly, if I could, I'd join her world. It seems much more fun than the real one.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
You disgust on every street corner. The
Я
daily
плохо
routine.
вижу его лицо. По-моему, оно выглядит обычным. Ну-ка, где он? А нет, он выглядит как зомби. Ну, терпимо. Раны, к счастью, не открыты.
Good evening, Mr. Hampton. How do you feel?
Dr. Reed, is it? Oh, sir, I must apologize for my behavior.
What do you mean?
I was not myself in the factory. Fear and exhaustion made me say awful things to you, I'm afraid.
You remained perfectly nice and polite. A little delirious, perhaps. But who wouldn't be after enduring an abduction?
Thank you, Doctor. That's a relief. Now all I need to do is rest and return to my flock.
How did you end up in William Bishop's den?
I had received alarming news about his recent behavior. I went to his place and he refused to let me go.
Он знает о вампирах или нет?
Why did he abduct you?
William was an alcoholic. His addiction suddenly changed to blood. I don't know why. Just like a patient I met here. This Miss Hawcroft.
Да, она вроде не пьет, только так.
You dared to
Делает
enter
вид.
this awful place alone. You're a hero, Mr. Hampton. Or a fool.
I'm just a man trying to help his friends, Dr. Reed. William Bishop was a conflicted soul, searching for light.
Do you know Tom Watts, the bartender from the Turtle? I met him before I found you in the canning factory.
Tom? Yes, of course. Always the helping hand, good old Tom. Without men like him, corruption and despair would have wiped out the East End long ago.
People are still in despair.
How could it be otherwise? The authorities have left us all to rot in this contagious nightmare. No drugs, no advice, nothing. It's a damn shame.
Who should I avoid in this part of town, then? Any particularly evil figures?
Not really. Most men and women are just doing their best. And it's not my habit to speak ill of people I know, Doctor.
What is the general situation in the East End docks?
The situation has always been tough, with a lot of tensions between the gangs and the dockers' trade union. The wet boot boys are very nervous since they lost their leader.
Мокрые ботинки.
Who leads the gang now?
Since Clay Cox went missing, it's his wife Edwina who runs the show, with the assistance of her minion, Booth Digby.
Has the gang been threatening you?
Ah, no. I've had this nickname for so long, you know, the sad saint of the East End. No one dares to bug a saint, not even criminals.
Он называет себя святым? Не слишком ли это?
What do you do for a living, Mr. Hampton? I can't help but notice the cross around your neck.
I manage a night asylum for the poor and homeless of the docks, and I try to guide the lost and hesitant on the right path to our Lord.
Are you a priest, Mr. Hampton? A deacon, maybe?
Not at all, Doctor. I'm just a man of faith willing to preach the good word.
Why didn't you use your cross against William Bishop? To repel him somehow?
That's a very strange question, Doctor. A cross is no magical token, if that's what you were trying to say. Not mine, anyway.
Значит, он еще не знает о вампирах.
How do you feel, Mr. Hampton? Medically speaking, I mean.
I feel exhausted. Beyond exhaustion, actually. William drank so much of my blood in his madness. I feel empty.
You're in good hands here. Dr. Swansea is well versed in blood transfusion, and I'm sure he'll take the best care of you.
Thank you, sir. I believe all I need is rest. And then I can go back to the people who need me.
Have you made friends since you arrived?
Not really. but I recognize Miss Harriet Jones. I knew her when she lived by the docks. That poor woman had such a miserable life.
You never came to see her here at Pembroke? Receiving visits when sick can be an important part of the healing process, you know. We're not just bodies.
You're preaching to the converted now, Doctor. To be truly honest, I thought she was dead. She left the docks many months ago.
Goodbye, Mr. Hampton. We'll talk again later. I cannot enter. Good evening, nurse.
Good evening, Doctor. I don't think we've been introduced yet. My name is Pippa Hawkins.
And I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. Dr. Swansea has recently offered me a position in this hospital.
Well, it's a euphemism that your help will be appreciated, Doctor.
Я уже о тебе наслышана.
How would you describe the situation at the Pembroke Hospital?
It's serious. The flu is wreaking havoc amongst the staff and patients. We are running out of everything.
You must get a hold of yourself, nurse.
Sorry, I'm exhausted. No one has any idea when this epidemic will be over.
Nurse Hawkins, the Spanish flu won't last forever. Even the Black Plague didn't kill everyone.
I wish I could believe you. But what if this epidemic was worse? What if in the end, nobody was spared?
Да не может быть такого.
How is the Pembroke staff coping with the epidemic?
Well, not well. Milton, the ambulance driver, is even more grumpy than usual, especially concerning doctors.
Но не на тебя.
Why is Milton grumpy on a daily basis? Is it just an act?
Milton's not the kind of man who's bothered about a bad reputation, whether he deserved it or not.
Why does Milton dislike doctors?
I don't know. Just ask him. But be warned, Milton is not the chatty type.
How long have you been a nurse?
Well, long enough to see that the epidemic is winning. And no matter how qualified you are, don't tell me you'll change that.
You'd be surprised what dedication can achieve, Nurse Hawkins. In medicine, sometimes we're just a test result away from a miracle.
Sorry, Doctor. I don't want to sound bitter, but I'm just too tired to give a pep talk like Nurse Brannigan.
Ничего не скажешь о том, что она там
Goodbye,
просит денег?
Fear and disgust on every street corner.
Не кашляйте в общественных местах, берегите свое и чужое здоровье. Плюясь, кашляя, чихая, вы распространяете инфлюенцию. Болезнь распространяется с капельками, вылетающими из носа и горла. Не кашляйте в общественных местах.
It's locked, all right.
Чей-то шкаф закрыт. Тут уже есть 2 закрытых места. Так, остался 2-й этаж. Тут я была? Нет. Какой-то склад. Там морг, это я помню.
It's locked, all right.
Не работает. Операционная. Старая пила. Карта пациента Т. Элвуда. Томас Элвуд. Мужчина, 28 лет. Это у кого рука сломана или у кого лицо обожжено? Лицо обожжено. Состояние выздоравливает. Дата поступления 16 сентября. Дата выписки не определена. Примечание: во время войны лицо пациента было серьезно обожжено и деформировано при взрыве бомбы. Даже получая самые сильные успокаивающие средства, он регулярно испытывает сильнейшую боль, словно, по его словам, огонь все еще горит под кожей. Осмотр рубцующихся тканей не показал следов воспаления, инфекции или отеков, шрамы чистые. Может, это случай неизлечимого повреждения нервов? Пациент постоянно винит себя в своих физических уродствах. Может, это случай чувства вины выжившего? Фантомная боль как наказание за то, что он не умер вместе со своими товарищами. Закрыто. Тут у нас кто? Доктор Типпетс, Стрикленд и Акроид. Кабинеты есть свои личные. Но это мой. Зайдем туда в самом конце.
It's locked.
Третье место закрытое. Третий этаж. Закрыто? Да. Так, тут у нас Суонси. Сейчас. Тут тоже закрыто, да? Да. Давайте к Суонси сходим. Не сейчас. Значит, в свой кабинет.
This must be the place. It's definitely away from prying eyes. Relegated to the shadows. A kingdom of my own. At least I won't be sleeping in a coffin.
Статья об эконах, наверное. Это редкая возможность, даже привилегия, сблизиться с вампирами и наблюдать за их физиологическими и психологическими особенностями с научной и рациональной точки зрения. Вот некоторые из удивительных способностей, которые я наблюдал за последние 10 лет в ходе общения с вампирами или эконами. Значит, это одно и то же. Как они себя называют? Сверхъестественная скорость. Вампир может действовать и двигаться так же, как смертный, но опытный глаз подметит, что все чувства у них обострены, а реакция гораздо быстрее, чем у любого... Кто говорит? Субтитры там какие-то. Чем у любого смертного. В некоторых случаях тревога, удивление, необходимость бежать. Я видел, как вампир двигался так быстро, словно исчезал, и внезапно... Харви, помолчи. Словно исчезал и внезапно появлялся где-то еще. Когда вампиры действуют так быстро, человеческий глаз не может за этим уследить, но это не телепортация и не дематериализация. Это всего лишь сверхъестественная скорость. Эта способность позволяет вампирам, словно кошкам, бегать и уклоняться и прыгать дальше и быстрее, чем это делаем мы. Кроме того, я заметил, что такая скорость их утомляет. Физические ограничения действуют и на них. Гипноз. Одна из самых мощных способностей вампира – это возможность подчинить себе смертного. Я называю это свойство гипноз, но оно не имеет ничего общего со способностью смертных изменять психическое состояние подопытного. Вампир может подчинить смертного своей воле и даже сломать его психику. Один вампир, с которым я беседовал, даже сказал, что чем сильнее сопротивляется жертва, тем более долговременным является урон. Словно вампир в буквальном смысле слова раскалывает разум цели. Тот же вампир объяснил мне, что на овладение данной способностью требуется время, и что результаты воздействия бывают самыми разными. Вампир может внушить ложные воспоминания, стереть болезненное, возможности поистине безграничные, и что пугает. Чутье на кровь – это, возможно, самая жуткая способность вампиров, поскольку именно она является причиной множества трагедий как для них, так и для нас. Вампиры жаждут крови. Они должны проявить неимоверную силу воли, чтобы сдерживаться и не выпить всю кровь, которая находится в поле их зрения. Кровь нужна им для того, чтобы существовать и пользоваться... Нет... И пользоваться своими сверхъестественными способностями. Голодный вампир может быть очень слабым, хотя ему и не грозит смерть от голода или жажды. Это жажда, вот причина того, что кровь так возбуждает вампиров. Один вампир признался, что запах крови так силен, а ее привлекательность так велика, что иногда ослепляет его. Если вампир сосредоточился, то он почти может увидеть кровь, как в живых телах, так и за стенами, на якобы чистом оружии и т.д. Тот же вампир говорил, что видит, чистая ли кровь у смертного, или он болен, а в некоторых случаях даже может обнаруживать наличие в комнате зараженных предметов. Если это правда, то данная способность обладает просто невероятной ценностью для врачей. Да. Так, что это? Средства от простуды, бронхита, пневмонии, сепсис, анемия и переутомление. Обычный мачете. Но урон у него поменьше. Скорость атаки побольше, но выносливость опять же меньше. Не знаю. Он только уровнем повыше. Изучу кровь в самый последний момент. Мало ли вдруг доставка какая-нибудь будет. Это мое, да. Бесполезно. Это что? Записка от доктора Суонси. Джонатан, я попросил сестру Крейн подготовить для вас кабинет на 2-м этаже. К сожалению, не могу вас проводить. Мне нужно немного поспать перед работой. Я всего лишь простой смертный. Заранее прошу прощения за скромную обстановку. Пембургская больница далеко не Ритц. Я распорядился, чтобы к вам никто никогда не входил. Поэтому спокойно спите днем и работайте по ночам, если вам угодно. Здесь нет лаборатории, но вы можете проводить эксперименты у себя. Кроме того, в кабинете есть окно, а за ним строительные леса, которые позволят вам незаметно уходить и возвращаться. Должно быть, сейчас вам все кажется непривычным и пугающим. Я долго изучал представителей вашего вида и понимаю, что вы сейчас чувствуете. Да он обычный человек, только пьет кровь. Можете рассчитывать на мою помощь. Я рад, что познакомился с вами в это тяжелое время. Надеюсь, наше сотрудничество принесет блестящие результаты. Добро пожаловать в Пембургскую больницу, уважаемый коллега. Скоро мы еще побеседуем. Искренне ваш Эдгар Гриффит Суонси. Прикладываю копию своих записок о том, что я узнал об Эконах за последние годы. Прочитайте их, только не используйте эти знания против меня. Типа не гипнотизировать его? Кто знает, кто знает. Давайте изучим кровь. Слабая сыворотка регенерации. А, это аптечка.
Blood is much more unstable than human blood and shows extensive mutation. But this is not what happened to me. I must keep on searching. The sun
А свою кровь ты уже изучил?
I can feel it. I'll continue tomorrow night. I have so much time now.
Так. Шестой уровень, у меня 5-й. Давайте будем копить пока что. Следующей ночью.
If I'm to stay here until my research is complete, I'd better learn to hide my true nature from the mortals. But what about my thirst for blood?
Здоровое состояние. Погоди. Давайте на этом закончим. Увидимся в следующей серии и пойдем выполнять всякие квесты.